There are so many things I love about this congregation. I love that we come together each week, that we take that moment of pause, that moment of to just be present in the presence of others. I love that here we're not afraid to wrestle with the big questions of life and some of the challenging parts of life, that we are here to hold each other's joys, sorrows, concerns. I love our music and our choir director, although she's not here today, Kathy Middleman, and our music man, Bruce. I love working with our office administrators, Sarah Drew, and seeing our child care providers, Anaya and Summer, take such good care of our little ones. And isn't it incredible that we have volunteers skilled enough to run the AV booth each and every Sunday morning, and to do the bookkeeping and take care of the buildings and the grounds and teach our children and lead listening circles and sing and give us food and clean up our food and all those things. Right? I love that so many people are dedicated to creating this community by volunteering incredible amounts of time and talent and love and financial resources. It sometimes defies reason, doesn't it? I mean, in a world where we are taught to make sure we have fair exchanges for everything we do, here is this group of people that say to each other, you do what you can do, I'll do what I can do, and together we will create and sustain this community and open the doors for whoever wants to join us in whatever way works for them. You have created so much here. I love that you do all of this, not because you are afraid of some punishment if you don't, because some all-powerful being said you had to do, or because it was written in some ancient scripture, or because you're going to get good karma points, although you will. I love that you have nurtured and sustained this community because something inside you called you to do so, and you answered. And I know it is not always easy. Shall I repeat that part? I know it is not always easy. Sometimes committee work can feel like being stuck in quicksand with someone holding a cup of coffee just outside your reach. And I know for some of you feel like you have the second job, one where they ask you to pay to work here. As I said, it defies reason sometimes, doesn't it? But I also know that many of you have discovered a little secret of life. It happens to be a secret I discovered printed on the walls of a gymnasium many, many years ago. You see, when my little girls were little, they went to gymnastics studio for a few years. And for an hour, twice a week, I'd sit in this little room with that big window and watch them tumble and spin and leap and swing. And I'd read this little sign that was posted there. And the sign said simply, do not sacrifice what you want most for what you want in the moment. Right? Now, my girls ended up not wanting most to be gymnasts, which was okay with me because my budget did not want most to pay for it. But I've carried that little saying with me throughout my life since then. In those moments when I want to sleep in and skip exercise or meditation, or eat that second piece of chocolate cake, or surf the web instead of focusing on a task at hand, that little phrase comes to mind. Don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want in the moment. Now, of course, the problem with this little bumper sticker-worthy saying is that what we want in the moment is usually so much easier and more accessible than what we want most. Businesses know this all too well. that we are prone to choosing in-the-moment gratification, right? That's why the stores have all that candy right as you're going checking out, right? And businesses spend a lot of money on marketing research. Drive this car off the lot today and feel instant freedom until the payments start coming in. But the things we want most usually require more than that quick decision candy bar can give us. Perhaps you've heard that spiritual metaphor of the seed and the impatient gardener. One day, a new gardener planted a seed and was so anxious for it to bear fruit that the next day they went out to the garden and just had to dig it up to peek to see how it was doing. Nothing appears to have changed, so they put it back in the soil. But the next day, they really wanted to see how it was doing, so they dug it up again. Looked at it. Nothing's changing. Each day, this novice gardener returns to the garden fearful that the magic of growth may not happen, and so they dig up the seed, and they look at it, and disappointedly, they stick it back in the ground. Has anybody been that gardener in their life? Right? Have you been there at times in your life when you wanted to have instant results, or you just wanted a sign that your efforts were going to be rewarded in the end? I feel like this often in our justice work. It can be frustrating as we stand out there on the sidewalk or show up at the town meetings time after time, and yet little seems to change in the direction of justice in that moment. And in the congregation, I know it can be disheartening when we start a project and put so much energy into it, and yet it feels like nothing is coming to fruition, right? I know there's a few heads shaking. And we may lament over meetings where the minister insists that we do consensus building. Do we really have to take time to hear everybody's opinion? Can't we just vote and get this thing over with? But this is where the next part of the impatient gardener story comes in. The next part of the story goes like this. Finally, after 2 weeks, when nothing is happening, the gardener digs up the seed for the last time and in frustration throws the seed to the side. Now, luckily for the seed, it lands in the compost pile. And being left alone amongst all that rich soil, it finally gets to sprout and grow. The seed's natural urge was to grow. All the gardener needed was to plant it in fertile soil and have faith in the natural process of life. As humans, I firmly believe our natural urge is to give and engage and create. Somewhere inside of us, what we instinctively desire most is not the fruit of our labor, but an experience of connection and community, of interconnectedness and generosity, of giving and exchanging and engaging. It feels good when we put our energy into things, right? Yes? Are we awake? It feels good to put our energy into things, right? We just need faith that we will be okay when we lean in and contribute, right? We need faith that we do not have to do it alone and that we will be joined by others and that our co-creators will join us and that co-creative energy will be worth it. We have to have faith that we will not be taken advantage of if we give and see someone else not giving equally. Too often we hold back our energy. We hold back our time, our talent, our resources. We're fearful. What if I give too much? Somehow it's not going to all be equal and even. I recently picked up a book called The $64 Tomato. Anybody read it? It's a chronicle of one man's adventures as a home gardener and attempts to answer the mathematical equation of time invested over rewards received. He recounts his many, some of you are gardeners, he recounts his many adventures and then one day decides to add up the cost of the garden and divide it by the number and the amount of food it produced. You can see where this is going. After adding and prorating and amortizing and dividing and subtracting the groundhog's take, he looked at a large, gorgeous, juicy tomato. And as the title of the book reveals, it turns out to be a $64 tomato. In the book, William Alexander, the author and gardener, describes revealing the number to his wife as the burning question lay between them. Was it worth it? In the book, he recounts the quick smile they shared in answer to that question. And in the next chapter, he describes all the reasons why a $64 tomato is indeed a bargain. After all, a garden is not just about the fruits or any kind of instant reward. It is March here in Georgia, and indeed, people are preparing the soil and planting seeds in the ground in anticipation of future harvests, right? And all home gardeners know well that the satisfaction of their gardening is not, or they will know soon, that the satisfaction of their gardening is not just the fruit of the garden that it will bear, but the joy and the challenges that it will provide along the way. And it is this time of year when we too at Emerson become gardeners. Now, of course, we have some wonderful garden projects of literal gardening going on underway. We have plots around Emerson that different groups and individuals have taken on as their garden projects. I think there might be a few still available. And the Memorial Garden team is getting close to their groundbreaking moment of the Memorial Garden. But today kicks off our time of the year when we turn our attention to the figurative garden of our Emerson community, the one where we each get to be the gardeners and the recipients of the harvest. This is the time of year during our annual stewardship campaign when you will each be asked what you want most. And you will be encouraged to evaluate for yourselves how much you want to lean into the creation of this community and contribute to its garden of ministries. If you are new to Unitarian Universalist world, you want to know that each congregation is financially independent. There is no larger organization that pays for the ministries, the minister, the staff, or owns the building. In fact, if you are a member here, including those that just joined, look around. Everything the light touches is yours once the mortgage is paid. This system of congregational responsibility means you all get to make the important decisions about how many resources we have and how we're going to allocate them. Like any other family or business, our Emerson family business must take time each year to plan a budget for the coming year. In our case, that is the fiscal year, which begins July 1st. And so you're going to be asked to commit to Emerson's future in the form of a financial pledge for our next fiscal year. This is a very personal process, and I know each of you have many areas of your life that require financial commitments. And I know each of us are subjected to our own brand of succumbing to the urge for instant gratification that sometimes eats away at our personal budgets. I have been known to swipe my bank card more often for bubble tea in some months than for our Share the Basket partners. I am not proud of this fact, nor do I claim that I value bubble tea over others' needs. But I get it, right? Money's tricky. Money choices are tricky, and we all have to navigate things as best we can. I do believe, however, that our faith calls us to seek deeper levels of satisfaction and invites us to align our values and actions by asking, what do we really want most? And because you come here already, because I see how much you already give in your time and your talent, I know the answer, at least in part, is that you do want connection. You want a chosen family. an opportunity to make the world a better place and be part of something that is not possible for you to do alone. Our Universalist religious ancestors to this UU faith preached that we are all loved and worthy of heaven. There is no hell. They believed that God was love and that the love of God was so universal, so large, so compassionate, that we would all experience universal salvation upon death. And they proclaimed that people were good and would do good even without the fear of hell hanging over them. In fact, they believed that knowing they were loved, in knowing that, they were more likely to do good. They preached a faith motivated by what we want most to create in the world, not a fear of an afterworld. This religion that we live today is founded and sustained by people that knew what they wanted most, and they weren't afraid to make choices and hold the faith that it was possible to create. And Emerson was founded on the same principles of love and generosity and trust and goodness. Emerson and Unitarian Universalism will continue as long as there are people who want most what the experience of community and service and a faith grounded in goodness of humanity can offer. And I hope that those people are you. So may it be.